Tonight's episode of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show is brought to you by Kid Products, stick stoves and reflector ovens proudly made in Canada. Algonquin Outfitters, with 5 key locations in and around Algonquin Park to serve your backcountry needs. Salis Marine, keeping you safe on the water since 1999. Ostrom Outdoors, custom fit canoe packs and barrel harnesses. Badger Paddles, handcrafted canoe paddles made to order. And Novacraft Canoes, connecting you with nature in Canadian-made canoes since 1970. Well, hello and happy Tuesday evening, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show. My name's Dennis, also known as CANOEHOUND, and if this is your first time tuning in, or if you're a listener on our podcast, or if you happen to be watching this at a later time, welcome, and thanks very much for gracing this time to us. Ah, man, you know what? We got a cool show for you tonight, but as usual, you know what? We have to get through our announcements, and we'll let our guests get ready down in the basement. But before I do that, I just seen a post here, and I have to wish somebody looks like some good friends of mine there, and the singer for my really cool introduction song. I guess they're not feeling so well, so thanks for joining us, Jay, and yeah, man. Hope you're feeling better, both of you and Sherry. I got a little something coming down myself. Hopefully it's not that. Hopefully this will go away, but keep popping the cold effects and hopefully everything gets better. Anyways, let's get on with a few news and announcement things that are going on here. If you missed our show last week, we were joined by Hap Wilson. We took on a little bit of a different approach with talking with Hap last week and tried to stay away from the political stuff because I really wanted to learn a little bit more about Hap's creative side. Hap is he's an artist. He's an artist before he was an activist. He's an artist before he was a writer of his books and guidebooks and things of that sort. And it was really a cool show to get to learn a little bit something a little bit more about Hap, especially when it came to his guidebooks and things like that, because his guidebooks all had a purpose behind them. And well, hey, how many people have used his guidebooks? It's a good thing. So if you happen to miss that show, by all means, go back, check out our past episodes playlist, and I promise you won't be disappointed. It was a really good show with Hap, so that's great. Last week we did have a swag giveaway winner, a couple winners. Hap offered up a couple of his books, I believe. One of his books, Out of Abaddon, and the other one was Dance of the Deadman. And there were 2 winners from last week, and I'm not sure who's getting which book, but they will be autographed books. But congratulations to Lindsay Fleischer and Edward McCarthy. They were the winners from last week. And for those of you, I know a lot of people had a really difficult time trying to remember, because Hap didn't really reveal it in the show. You really have to know Hap Wilson or have had to come across the answer in one of his books. He was a toboggan ranger for 8 years. So for those of you that did submit your questions, there were quite a few right, but there were quite a few wrong. But I let everybody be in the draw anyways, just because Hap did not share that information verbally on the show. But like I say, congratulations to the winners. I communicated with Hap and the winners, and your book should be in the mail very soon. So thanks very much to everybody that did submit their answers. Also last week, I'd like to welcome on 10 new members, thanks to the generosity of one of our regular supporters of the show and somebody who's been a channel member for quite a long time. Christian Moloschek gifted 10 memberships, and they were all claimed during last week's show. Christian, thanks very much for that generosity. You made 10 people's day, and you also got them 10 people qualified for the members Christmas giveaway. So that's those numbers just increased. Across the bottom of the screen right now are all my channel supporters, including Christian, who's floating across there right now. And yeah, thank you very much to all of you for your support. While we're talking about channel members, there's a few people that are celebrating milestones this week, and I'm just trying to find that. Here we go. Celebrating 6 months as channel members. We have 22 for 30 years. David Engstrom and Tosh Self-Propelled, who I believe is on a big road trip right now. So thank you to all that are supporters of the channel, and to these people who just hit milestones. If I have your address, your membership decal badges are in the mail. If I don't have your address, it's not too late to drop it to me. You can send it to me at canoehound@gmail.com, which is the all-important email address. So while our members are floating across the bottom of the screen here, just also want to thank Jay and Sherry from Beauty of the Backcountry for your coffee contributions on Buy Me a Coffee. Let's take a dip. Oh, that's going to go down nice right now with the throat the way it's feeling. So, yes. Okay, moving on here. We have some birthdays and announcements going on. Josie Dinsmore is celebrating a birthday. I believe she celebrated a couple days ago. And then some upcoming birthdays this week. We have Randy Lewis from OTG Meals. We have Karen Melot. And a good friend here and past guest, Brad Jennings from Explore the Backcountry. All turning a year older or a day older. Depends how you look at it, right? But if anybody out there has any wishes that they would like to share with other people, or announcements you would like me to make that are of a happy nature, please do send it to me here at canoehound@gmail.com, and I will do my darndest to make it happen. I also want to thank a lot of people who this week I actually had a lot of great suggestions for show ideas and show topics. And as usual, we are going to do whatever we can to make those things happen. But first, we got to finish getting through 2023 here and our upcoming Christmas episode, which will be next week. For those of you that are not familiar with our Christmas episodes, they are basically just a fun evening. No particular guests. We usually bring back past guests, sponsors, maybe a few of you in the chat that want to pop up and wish everybody season's greetings. It's going to happen. We're going to have a good time. And we'll also have a better announcement or a bigger announcement as far as our Christmas giveaway for our channel members. I'm just going to read through this here because over the past couple of weeks, I've been mentioning that we are going to be having a Christmas giveaway. And yes, we are. It's for our channel members. And if anybody wants to be entered for a chance to win, basically, you got to become a channel member. And down below here, you'll see a join button somewhere. You can click that and figure out how to support the channel and become part of the swag giveaway. And we actually have some pretty cool things coming in from our sponsors. Just to give you an idea, I got a little baggie over there with from Kid Products with a stick stove and a bunch of accessories in there. Ostrom Outdoors is got a couple items in there, some custom briefcases, something that they're looking at reopening up as far as a product that they used to sell. So I have some of those. We got some swag from Novacraft Canoe. Salis Marines giving an Eddie Flex PFD. That there is a sweet little piece. And all kinds of really good stuff from our good friends over at Algonquin Outfitters. So that's what we have so far. And then, of course, a whole bunch of Canoe Hound Adventures swag. So like I say, we're going to try to put together 3 packages of a fairly good value. And we'll have 3 of our lucky channel members will be the recipients of them. So if you're already a channel member, you don't have to do anything. You're already entered. If you're not a channel member and you want to be entered, all you need to do is become a channel member. And like I said, just down here, you'll see the join button. Feel free to jump on that at any time. You don't have to do it during the show. You could do it before, during, or after the show and just see if it's something for you. Just to let you know as well, the draw will be done live for our channel members on a members only live stream on the 27th of December. You'll all get your notifications when I set that all up. I'll send that out to all our channel members with a link to actually get on here and watch the show as a, like I say, as a channel member. So it'll be a members only live stream. Let's see here. Speaking of giveaways, our good friends over at KeelQuest are also doing a Pickwick Fire Starters sponsored giveaway. You can get details on that on their Instagram account. Feel free to go over and check that out. I know Johnny and Colleen are in the chat. I could see their name bouncing around or floating up there. So you know what, Johnny and Colleen, if you want to put a link to your, or at least just drop your Instagram tag in there so people can actually get that to get more details. but I know they're doing it on one of their live streams. So if you want to get involved with them, I would say start with their Instagram and follow little links through there, and you'll get yourself all set up for their giveaway. And they told me also that it was open to both Canada and the United States. So that's always a welcome thing. Let's see. That's that. Wow. We got through this a little quicker than I thought here. Anyways, once again, if you have any hot topics that you'd like to see on a show, I've had this email up here for a bit. Just drop me an email. Let me know who or what you would like to see on the show, and we will try very hard to make that happen. And then, of course, if you have any questions for myself or my guest tonight, most likely our guest, put the word question in the chat before you put your question so I could identify it. I may not get to it right away. I'll star it, and then towards the end of the show, I'll kind of go through like a little rapid fire question period. And yeah, we'll go through it that way. And also, in the second half of the show, if we have time, I may invite a couple of people to come on up by dropping a link over into the chat. So that would be a good thing. Anyways, we have all come here not to hear me talk about announcements and stuff, but we come here to be entertained by tonight's guest and topic. Tonight's guest is here to tell us about his epic 11-day pack boat exploration adventure in the canyons of Tuktut, Nogait. That's 200 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle. He's also an engineer by trade and is the founder of Sulik 46 engineered backcountry gear. He is it's a design and manufacturing firm, and it focuses on lightweight backcountry gear. Please welcome to the show, good old Steve Evans. How you doing, Steve?
Love the intro, Dennis. Thank you very much.
That's the best Johnny Carson I got right there.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. You know what? Your expedition here that I've been watching, because it's not even complete yet on YouTube, but it really had me enthralled right from the very first episode that you posted on YouTube. But before we get on with that, I want to get to learn a little bit more about you. I've met you on a few different occasions at the outdoor shows and stuff like that. I've been intrigued by the products that you sell through and design and manufacture through Sulik 46. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, I'm Steve Evans. I'm a middle-aged man who owns a small company manufacturing lightweight backpacking and camping gear. I kind of, a good question I always get is kind of like, how did the business start, sort of thing. And so I'm a lifelong backcountry explorer. Let's say kind of grew up cutting my teeth in the bush in Killarney and Algonquin, primarily paddling for the first, 2 decades of my life, sort of thing. And as you get a little bit older, like as you're finishing high school, there's less and less people that want to go camping. It becomes harder to find a paddling partner. And I found it easier to go solo hiking at the time. And this would have been, late 90s, early 2000s. And like everybody who went from a canoe to hiking, it can be a pretty painful experience if you don't understand what it's like to carry, an 80-pound pack for 20 kilometers on the La Cloche Silhouette Trail. And in the mid 2000s, I had got to a point where I thought, okay, I want to do some bigger trips. I tried to backpack the La Cloche Silhouette Trail and failed miserably after 2 days, ended up bailing out and hitchhiking home, and started to research lightweight gear. And, at the time, a lot of the outfitters, Mountain Equipment Co-op or whatnot, weren't carrying a lot of the kind of high-end technical, let's call it, gear. And I found a website called backpackinglight.com. And it was basically focused on ultralight hiking. Guys would carry 5 pounds of gear and do the Appalachian Trail over 3 months. And I got into this. I learned about, there's this chart where there's distance and fun on one side, and then there's pack weight on the other. And you find that as lower and lower your pack weight goes, the further you can go and the more fun your days are. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of companies doing it. So a bunch of us, we used to make our own gear, literally just kind of like buying pieces of titanium off eBay and sewing our own tarps and stuff. And over time, people wanted to sort of buy it. And so I'd make stuff here and there for my friends and colleagues. And in 2007 or 2007, probably, I went on a big expedition in Nepal. I climbed a bunch of peaks, and I was really thinking about ice axes and how heavy they were. So I came back in one of the forums on the same backpacking light. I asked a question. Hey guys, has anyone ever thought of making a lightweight ice axe? And what's fantastic about the outdoor community is there's a bunch of people that all go camping and kind of live a very simple life in the backcountry, but some of them are, manufacturers of carbon fiber parts and, PhDs in material science and stuff. And I found that this group of ultralight backpackers, let's call them, was a great resource to help develop it. So our flagship product was made in the forums of an online backpacking community. I sold 25 axes. This is one of our flagship. Let's see if you can get it. Like one of our titanium and carbon fiber ice axes. I sold like 25 of them in a year or something, and realized that more people wanted them. So I kind of put together a website. There was no business plan or anything. And the initial plan, if you ask, it was my girlfriend then, she's now my wife. I told her 15 years ago, I said, if I can make $2,000 a year, I can take us on vacation, as a little bonus instead of working. That was the plan. And, 6 or 7 years later, I didn't really take it too serious. Things started getting a little bit out of control. It became difficult to kind of balance work with the business. And now it's a full time, and there's a handful of us working there. So that's sort of the story. Yeah, and that's really the real goal of the business is just like creating products that are lightweight, durable, designed for operational use, and can help you travel further and faster on trips.
Yeah, and there are quite a few that you actually have, right? I've seen all kinds of different products that you've got, everything from pot holders and your axe, grills, and all kinds of neat things that would really lighten the load. So basically, you started out as a guy trimming your toothbrush down to 2 inches long to save that 1/10 of an ounce, right?
If you look, actually, this is a good segue. If you go to my website and there's an adventures tab, at the beginning when I started in the late 2000s, it very much was a website that tried to help people like explore hiking trails and stuff, because I went through it. I wasn't able to do the La Cloche Silhouette Trail at the age of like 27 because I just didn't have the gear. And, so there was other people in the same boat. So under the adventure section, there's a plethora of trips I've been on, and I include a gear list on every single one of them. And it's probably gone back to, I bet there's trips from 2008 and 2009 there. I look like a young kid. Yeah. So I've done the big 5-pound base weight hikes where you can basically cover 30 kilometers in a day, no problem.
I got a little bit of a history on you here about some of the notable adventures that you've taken, starting like back around 2007 all the way through 2023. And there's actually, if everybody looks, see that yellow list, there's all kinds of adventures that he's undertaking. I'm just gonna pick off a couple that I think would be really cool, because they're ones I wouldn't mind trying myself. Nepal, 30 days hiking and climbing through the foothills of Everest. Vancouver Island in 2015, the Triple Crown, 3 weeks to consecutively through hike each trail on the island, including the West Coast Trail, the North Coast Trail, and the Nukuta Trail. Is that how you pronounce that?
The Nootka Trail.
Nootka. I should put on my glasses if I'm going to try and read instead of squint, right? 2016, Patagonia, 10 solo day expedition circumnavigating Torres de Paine and Paddle the Rio Paine. 2021. Now, this one's really interesting. The Minas Link, a solo 400-kilometer bike packing route to pay homage to the late Bill Swift. Bike packing.
We could do another Canoe Hound show on that trip. A real quick summary. So obviously we were shut down. Couldn't really do a whole lot during those couple of years, and I was looking for something to do. I really like bike packing. It's a fantastic hobby. I canoe, I bike pack, I paddle, I kind of do everything. And I was looking at inside Algonquin Provincial Park. There is thousands of kilometers of logging roads all over the place. So first and foremost, for sure, it's a gray area whether or not you can ride some of these roads. But I put together, let's call it a parallel route through the park, a land route that followed, for the most part, the water route of the Minas Link. And I did that. And I actually wasn't really going to tell too many people about that trip. But then Gord Baker put me on the Minas Link, like, I don't know what you want to call it, accolades list. So yeah, and I thought, oh wow, okay, I actually didn't know how it was going to be received by the community. So then I rolled it out with like a whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, yeah. Took
That's
me, I
cool.
think,
That's very interesting because I would have never thought of. I had to do a double take when I read that you did the Venus Link as a bike packing trip. So
yeah,
that's
it's. I
yeah.
think it was the
So
first and only time someone will do it.
yeah. So now that's all led up to which most recently is your newest adventure, and one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show because, like I said at the top, I've been totally enthralled in watching your YouTube series on this in a land where, as I mentioned, it's rock, river, and no trees,
None.
and amazing, amazing. Let's talk about your Tuktut Nogait adventure.
Yes, it's actually. So I used to say it the same way you're saying it. It's Tuktut Nogait.
Nogait. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I found that out when I got there.
First off, okay, so I understand it took you a few attempts to be able to do this.
It did. This trip has no shortage of stories in every aspect of it, from planning it to getting there to the actual trip to even to getting home. So I originally emailed the park in 2019. So I generally have like a few trips on the go for years from now, and I'm emailing and getting that started. They didn't love the idea of somebody paddling the canyons on their own. They generally don't really like that too much. And obviously in 2020, we had the pandemic start. So, and I probably wasn't quite ready to go. So we didn't get to go in 2020. In 2021, it was completely shut down. They wouldn't let anybody go. So I did the Venus Link. And so I postponed it again for a second time. And then in 2022, I was completely ready to go, like packed, ready to go. I was leaving on Sunday morning at like 5 a.m. My first flight. It took like a couple days to get there. And Friday, like 48 hours before, my mom got really sick. And make a long story short, it was more serious than we had thought. And I canceled my entire expedition the day before. And then so I thought, you know what, no big deal. We'll do it in 2023. And then I think I was leaving at the mid-July or something like that. And actually kind of funny, if the Beauty in the Backcountry guys are in the chat, I was on my way home from Agua Canyon. So I was practicing some canyon paddling. And I met them in Sault Ste. Marie for lunch. And then on the way home outside of Sudbury, I hit a moose with my car, wrote my car off, broke my back. And the trip was in 8 weeks. So I thought I was going to have to cancel it again. And then I went to like a basically a CFL doctor that helps football players down the street, and he got me ready in 8 weeks, as good as you could be, and I finally made it. So it took me 3 times to actually go on the trip. Yeah.
Wow. So two pandemic washes, and then your mom's illness.
Yeah.
And so you actually broke your back, like quite
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah. I fractured my vertebrae. Wow. I think it was my T5. I think it was. I'd have to go back and look. It was a really bad experience, actually. And
yeah.
So it was probably in like May. I think it was probably like end of May. And I hit a moose outside of Sudbury, and I mean, they just come out of nowhere. It's crazy and completely destroyed the car. You're lying on the side of the road, fire truck gets there, straps you to it. I wasn't sure how bad it was. And at the end of it, a couple days later, they were kind of like, this generally takes 6 to 8 weeks to heal. So you should be good for your trip. I think I was leaving in 9 weeks. Yeah, so I actually made it happen.
Yeah. Were you like in hospital for a long period of time for that? Or?
No, it was like you're in the hospital for a day.
Take you out right away nowadays, right? Have a baby, you're home 3 hours later, right?
Yeah. No, it was you were there. I was there for like a day, probably.
Yeah.
And then they set you all up and basically make sure you can't do any more damage. And then you're just at home on bed rest. It was probably like not walking for maybe a week or so. And then, each week getting a little bit better and better. And then like acupuncture and chiropractor and everything you can imagine, strength training and stretching and stuff. So,
wow, anyway. Man. Well, congratulations on a speedy recovery to be able to do that and then fulfill this going on this adventure. That's crazy. I couldn't even fathom that, right? But wow, that's Yeah, good
If
for you. And how are you feeling these days? Are you like back at it
yeah,
or 100%?
yeah, now I'm quite good. Even on the trip, I probably wasn't like 100% good, but I was
Yeah.
good enough. Like I got it done. So it was
Oh, come on, man. I've seen you scaling rocks and stuff like that in little crevices and stuff like that up and down. No, that's crazy. Well, you know what? I'd really like to know a bit more about this whole expedition. First off, why Tuktut?
okay. Um, so like I guess all dreamers of going on trips, I spend time on like Google Earth, kind of looking along the Arctic Ocean for big Arctic rivers and stuff. In 2000, I forget when it was, sometime in the 2000, my first time to the Arctic. I did the Lagerberger Trail, and then I went back to Baffin Island. I did the Weasel River in the Arctic, and I was like, man, I'm like hooked on these rivers are amazing. And I really like the thought of like unique or multi-sport trips where it's not so straightforward to get to. Like there's so I take a look and I see, and I know when you look in the Northwest Territories, you can see the Horton River, which is a great like world-renowned kind of like route all the way to the Arctic Ocean. And then there's like this vast tundra from like the Horton all the way to like almost I guess Hudson Bay, Nunavut area, Northwest Territories, and there's these rivers up there. So I was just looking, and I saw the Hornaday River, and so I did some Googling just to see like, oh, let's like see if it's like a whitewater river or if it's like like a flatwater one. And I somehow, as I was zooming in, I saw, wow, like no one's really done the canyon section of this river. South of the canyons for a couple hundred kilometers, it's a really, I don't want to say really popular, like 4 people do it a year or something, but it's a big canoe route. You can fly into Canoe Lake, and it takes you, whatever it is, 20 days to get to your place called Uyarsavik. But Uyarsavik is where these canyons start. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll just shoot an email off to this place. And if you go on Google and type in Tuktut Nogait, you'll see articles like from the Globe and Mail. It's the most remote park in the world, and it has no visitors and all this stuff. So right away in the first couple of days of finding out, I thought, man, I got to go here. So I sent an email off to the park, and the park ranger got back to me. I remember his name was Charlie at the time. And he said, he's unaware of anybody that's ever paddled the canyons. And I was like, well, there's no way it's a first descent. Like there's got to be somebody who's done it. And about a week later, he sent me from the jump off point is Pawlatuck, which is a small Inuit community, like right on the Arctic Ocean, 285 people. There's a library, and he sent me a report from 1999 of this team of these two. I think there was 2 or 3 of them that ran the canyon, and in there was all of the previous attempts and everything. And the only other attempt before was in 1977. This is the year I was born, actually. A guy named Larry Osgood with 3 others attempted to do it. But for whatever reason, I think like I can imagine the technology back then and the gear. I mean, it would have been one absolute epic trip just to get there. I have Google Earth and stuff. And then once I found out it was like a 1999 trip and no one had done it for 25 years, I was like, okay, I'm going to this thing. So that's really what kind of, I was like, oh, it's a fantastic opportunity, and I get to do a second descent.
So there's been only 2, like besides yourself, 2 other documented expeditions that have done it or attempted,
Yeah,
because one of the parties didn't complete it, right?
yeah. So I also didn't do a full descent. You'll even see in the video, there's some rapids that I portaged. So technically it's not a descent. There's only been one team of 2. Actually, I talked to him after the trip. He contacted me, a guy out in BC named Robert Beaudry, and a guy in Jasper named Gilbert Wall. They did the only full descent of the entire canyons in 1999. Yeah, and they sent me. I have pictures. It's so crazy. They sent me their raw slides. Like back in the day, used to have slides and you project them. Yeah, they sent me a slide carousel, and they said this is the pictures we have. So they actually shipped it to me. I scanned them, and they're professional kayakers. He actually told me that it wasn't that big a deal.
Really?
I had a phone. Yeah, I had a phone conversation with him, and he said, "Yeah, it's not that big a deal." So, oh, okay, it was a big deal for me.
But you weren't doing this trip in a kayak, and you weren't doing this trip in a canoe. Tell the people what you did this trip in.
Yeah, so I did this one in what's called a pack raft, which is like so there's a lot out there of different ones, but so a whitewater, fully whitewater rig. Yeah, it's behind me. I got two of them actually, the blue one there and the yellow one there. So they're whitewater inflatable kayaks is what they are. They're
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so they weigh generally 5 to 7 pounds kind of thing, and they roll up real small, like to the size of, I want to say bigger than a 2 liter like Coca-Cola bottle. You know those things? It's probably bigger than that. Yeah, but they pack up pretty small. Yeah, and they're very fun. They're not a replacement for a hard-sided kayak if you're used to like whitewater kayaking or something like that, or a canoe for sure. But they definitely have their place in trips like this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Cool.
yeah.
So a quick question on those things, like they gotta be pretty darn durable. Like some of the stuff that you were hitting and some of the rock gardens you were rolling over and stuff, they gotta be pretty puncture resistant then, right?
They're surprisingly tough. I've
Mhm.
had a few of them. I bought my first one, a while ago. I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago or something. Actually, when the company was quite small. Now they're way more advanced, even the boats. And I thought, oh, these things are going to pop pretty easy, but they just don't. Like they really
Mhm.
don't. The rocks. So the bottom is a very thick fabric. I wouldn't have a clue what kind it is, but it's like almost like a thick leather. You know what I mean? Like a really lightweight, thick kind of polyester or something. And then the tubes are obviously thinner, but there's give to it. So when you hit something, it's like it's not rigid, so it doesn't just stick through. It actually folds a little bit. You
Mhm.
could for sure pop them. I never have, and I can't believe I haven't. But yeah, they're way more durable than you would ever imagine.
So because they have a lot of give to them, and with your back injury that you had 8 weeks previous, did you get any of them jar? Like you hit a rock or something, and like it's like riding a hardtail motorcycle, right? You're all the shock absorbers in your back, not in the vessel itself, right?
Yeah, it's definitely you can definitely go for like a cheese grater on rocks if you're not careful. Like the floor has a little pad that you sit on,
Yeah.
but definitely if anybody is used to like whitewater kayaking, and when you hit a rock, obviously the rock hits the kayak and you've got like a little sort of padded seat. This one, when you hit a rock, it's straight into your butt. So
Hmm.
yeah, so it's
Yeah.
a little bit more. You want to be careful. Like that's really what it is.
Avoid the rocks, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Try to avoid the rocks at all costs. Wow,
yeah.
man. So in planning this trip, then you had tried like since 2019. You had a lot of time, obviously, to plan the trip. Were you? Was this like always on your mind type of thing? You're always going through your head and trying to modify your trip plans, or was it like you could rest your brain for a while and go back to it, rest your brain for a while and go back to it? Is that the kind of thing that it took to plan this?
It was like, by the time I went, I almost knew the terrain so well. I had done so much research to plan the trip, and the trip. So actually, the pack raft wasn't even. I didn't know I was going to use a pack raft until probably a year later. I wasn't sure how I was going to do it. The people that had done it in 1999, they had helicoptered their kayaks in, and there's no helicopters in Paulituck. You're coming in from Norman Wells or Inuvik, and it's $15,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah, as I'm kind of learning the price to do all this stuff, I'm realizing, okay, well, it's not probably going to be possible to fly into this thing, and I was very nervous to actually paddle any of the canyons, because this report, if you read this report, these canyons were basically, the park made them off limits. They are committed paddling canyons. Once you go in, you can't exit. You can't. The GoPro in the video, it takes the edge off. Like it takes the edge off a little bit. They're sheer walled canyons, 700 feet tall. You kind of can't get out. So I knew I was going to Paulituck. I couldn't fly in, and initially when I planned on going in 2021, I was just going to scout the river. I was going to go on a hiking route for 10 days. I wonder if I can bring up a picture. You want to try this really quickly and see what happens?
Yeah, sure. Just hit the share button at the bottom there, and I'll get a visual of it here.
Yeah, so let me see if share screen. Mm. Okay, how's that?
Well, let's see here. There's a map.
Yes, okay. So, if you guys can see that, this was my original plan when I had called them. They honestly scared the hell out of me about the canyons. You know, they sent me a very strong. They were very helpful, but the park sent me a very strong note, basically saying, "We don't condone this trip. We can't rescue you if you go." It was just really intense to get a note like that from Parks Canada, but they're covering their ass, right? I totally get it. So
Yep.
I had said, okay, I'll go and I'll hike for 10 days, and this was my plan. It might be a little bit tough to see. I was leaving from Paulatuck. They were going to drive me to what's called Rat Lake, and I was going to hike basically 15 kilometers to 20 kilometers every single day, and map the river. I was going to build a map of the river, and then I was going to go back the next year with hopefully more than one person to do it. But as it kept getting delayed each year, I realized that like I'm probably gonna die before I'm actually gonna be able to do this. So if I go to the right, oh, okay, actually let me stop sharing. So I'll show you what my actual route was, if you don't mind here. So this is
Yep.
the actual route now. Um,
You can actually leave the screen up, and we could just change on the fly. You don't have to
oh
keep.
really? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
no problem.
I don't want to spend.
For those of you that might be listening as a podcast, Steve is showing us various maps of his route and of what he had planned for the trip. And here we go, another map.
Yeah, and so this is the actual map that I ended up doing after the trip. And so the reason for the pack raft, because primarily pack raft is used when you're not able to use any other craft. Arguably, it's the lowest performing. You have the risks of it popping. It's stable when you sit in it, but when you're running white water, it's harder to edge. It's very hard to roll, and it's just generally like it's like taking a station wagon to a racetrack sort of thing. It's totally amazing. Don't get me wrong, but it's not the best. So I was gonna on the original map, I was gonna hike all the way to the end where I now in this map I flew to, and then if possible, I was gonna inflate the kayak and potentially paddle some of the canyons. And then 2 days before my trip in 2023, this is like how flexible you have to be with your plans. I was getting ready to leave. It was like Sunday, and you have to understand when you're dealing with a park where there's only one visitor, you end up getting to know the park staff personally. Like so Stephanie was the park warden. I had her cell phone number. We would talk about the trip, and when I landed there, she was like, "We'll take you out for dinner," like all this type of stuff. And she called me and she said, "We're flying. We have some like what they call a culture camp. They're flying in some local Inuit to a culture camp to this Lake Uresivik, and if you want to come, you can come." And that would cut 6 days off my trip at the very beginning. And but I wouldn't be allowed to scout the river because obviously you're flying past it now.
Mhm.
So I thought, okay, even more of a reason to bring the pack raft. So I flew in instead. I had a 20-kilometer portage to the first canyon. You can see that in the first video. And then I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to paddle anything based on like water levels or how it was going to be. And I figured in the worst case scenario, I just have the pack raft. I can pack it up and I can hike 100 kilometers back. Or if I ever lost my boat or anything, I always had the option of just hiking all the way back to Paulatuck. So that ended up being what I actually did. A little bit different than what I had planned.
Yeah.
So
So the pack raft was kind of a last minute decision almost then.
it was a likely decision early on, but it really made a lot more sense when you realized there's no real other option unless you're going to spend big money to get boats there.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So when you reached out to the park warden, the park office, regarding your wanting to do this, what was their reaction? What did you have to do in order to convince them to issue you a park permit for this trip?
Dennis, I got to show you something then. You're going to love this even more. So how do we do it on the fly? Can I show you that?
Just click on the new one there, and I'll pop it up on screen. Can you see
Uh
your options?
You see what I got here. Oh, hold on. Let me stop sharing.
You're not going to say you bribed them with like a bottle of scotch or something.
This is what they sent me. At first, let me just show you. You'll love it. You'll love it. Is it this? Does that make sense?
There
Yeah.
we go. So
So,
we
dear
got a
Mr.
letter
Yeah.
to Mr. Evans. You could read it.
Parks Canada cannot endorse your trip plan since rescue capacity is very limited in Tuktut Nogait National Park due to its remote location, and rescue could take up to 4 days. We also have no high angle rescue capacity in the north, so extraction from high walled canyons would require up to a week for a certified rescue team to arrive. Should you decide to continue with your trip plan, Parks Canada advises you to come fully prepared for self rescue and emergencies such as cold water submersion, hypothermia, and bear encounters. Be sure to carry equipment for cold weather, climate, and extreme winds, first aid, and emergency beacon or satellite radio. Good luck.
Good luck.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Yeah. How many people over there in the chat have ever had a letter like that from Algonquin Park? Probably not many, right? Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So,
that just attests to the remoteness of this adventure or this expedition that you've undertaken, right? So yeah, that's kind of crazy.
yeah, they don't want, and I totally get it. So the reality is, this is the absolute reality. Polituck is where is the jump off point. That's where the park office is. There's 2 people that work there. If you get in trouble there and you call the park, or you send a message home, they're just going to say, we would love to get you, we would love to come get you, but there's no possible way for us to get there. Like, the only helicopters and stuff like that are in Alberta or BC or something. So for me, I ended up getting private rescue insurance for the trip, and in hopes you didn't have to use it, obviously, but then that way, they would come get you if you break a leg or lose a boat or get stuck in the canyon or something.
If you're fortunate enough to be able to hit the SOS button, right?
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
So there's some risk for sure. That's why, even if you watch the video, I'm very, very cautious, extremely cautious, because a trip ender, like, you twist an ankle, right, when you're out there, and it's going to be a problem, right?
Yeah.
So,
and as I mentioned at the top of the show, very, very barren land, rock. This river, I imagine, is a glacier fed
yeah,
river.
yeah,
So obviously very, very cold. Hence the wetsuit and everything, right? And
it is.
no trees. Like you can't. You're not building yourself a fire should you become wet and hypothermic. You're not building yourself a fire for warmth, obviously.
Yeah, there's no like, there really is no wood. There's some shrubs. There's like some shrubbery,
Yeah.
some like low-lying shrubs, but oddly enough, I don't know if anybody's ever flown to a trip. It's hard to bring fuel all the time when you're flying to these places. You usually have to pick it up in the local town or something. And so I had originally planned on just bringing a small, like the kid product, a twig stove type thing. And I was like, oh, I'll just burn like little branches that I found. And I only heat water for dinner on trips like this. Breakfast is just granola bars, lunch is beef jerky, and then I'll boil 2 cups of water at night. So I thought I'll just do it. And the park ranger was on the phone saying, Steve, there's no wood, like, there's nothing. And I'm like, no, but it should be like some like small twigs and stuff. And they're like, no, it's like, you can burn.
No.
Yeah, you can burn grass if you want. Like, there's some grass there. Yeah, it's very, very barren. It's the reason why that's the area of the barren ground grizzlies, and they generally follow the caribou herd. That's what they feed off, the caribou herd. But it's very high competition for food there, and so just makes you think a little bit more that not only is it grizzlies, but you can see them like 5 kilometers away because there's no trees and there's no food for them. So
It's like your dog running away in the prairies. You can see your dog running away for days.
Yeah, it's not the best feeling in the world when you go to sleep at night.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you when you finally hit the water, let's talk about the trip some, because as I mentioned, you're exploring 3 different canyons. There's some beautiful flows. You got a lot of scouting to do. Take us from the top, and we'll only go as far as you are with your YouTube videos right now because we want everybody to watch back. That you've got 3 episodes out currently, right?
Yeah, and I think there's 3, and then I'm there'll be probably 2 more. We'll wrap it up in 2 more. So how about this? That canyon section, and one thing to really think about is when you mentioned the glacial fed. So these rivers at some point run extremely dry in the summertime, and then they fill with snow, and in the springtime, it's like a raging 30 feet higher than where it was when I was on there. And a really famous kind of canyony river is the Firth, which is a really cool river. If you guys ever want to look up something that's a little bit like easier to get to. And when you have big rainstorms, because of the permafrost, they drain into the canyons, and the water levels can raise meters in, I don't want to say minutes, but it can be quite dangerous when you're inside the canyons and it's raining. So I always want to kind of be careful. So these canyons, by the time I got there, I was like arguably pretty terrified. I wasn't sure I was actually even going to be able to paddle any of them. And it's a 60-kilometer long section of canyon that's broken out. It's 3 canyons, and then the 4th is like part of the 3rd canyon, but it's below the waterfall, and that's the longest and steepest section. So the first canyon is, I think it was 8 or 9 kilometers long, and at the time I had just no idea about the warnings of how kind of dangerous it was, and I wasn't sure if I'd be able to get out. Now, it ended up being the first one. There's a lot of exits here and there, but you're still very much in a walled canyon for sections of it. And the water levels ended up being pretty low when I was there, probably a little bit lower than I would have liked. I probably would have liked it a little bit higher because it was like really low at certain points. And there is actually a water gauge in one of the canyons at the very end that they do for the Arctic char to see how far the char can come up for the locals and whatnot. And I studied the water gauge. I took the last 20 years and I made a spreadsheet. This is going to sound crazy for people. The water gauge it tells you what the water level is every single day. So I took the last 20 years of water levels from, I think it was 2001 to 2021, made a spreadsheet, and I found when the week where the lowest water levels were, or not the lowest, but I knew I wanted to run it at 2.5 meters. And I found out that there's like really only like a small section, the end of July, last week of July is basically the only time that you can reasonably run any of these canyons. So that's sort of what drove that timing of the trip. And then when I got to the canyon, I didn't know exactly what the levels were because I didn't have the water gauge with me, but they seemed a little bit low, which makes it a little bit, I want to say, safer because you might not drown, but pinning like crazy all over the place. Tons of boulders. If you look at the videos, there's just like, it's very, very technical, almost to the point where I don't imagine you could do it in a lot of crafts. Like if you wanted to canoe these canyons, the only thing I could think of is one of those. Actually, I just paddled one with Evan in a skiff ledge. It's like one of those like 10-foot playboat canoes kind of thing. You could probably take one of those down there. But if it's not a kayak or a pack raft or a very, very small boat, you wouldn't be able to get in between everything. And so every single section was scouted. Actually, every single section was documented. I built a map. We'll bring up the map after the break, actually, so we don't inundate them with media. But yeah, I scouted every single rapid, took river notes, figured out where the portages were, and then at the end of the first canyon, I ended up camping there and did all my notes and whatnot. And basically every single day I did one canyon. So if you're watching the video, I just finished the upper third and I'm going into the lower third. The second canyon is the one that has the class 4 and class 5 in it, which is arguably above my skill level. And really, no one should be running a class 5 by themselves in the middle of nowhere. It's just not a smart move. So in that video, you'll see I actually spend the mornings scouting and running the first half of the canyon. And every single rapid that I run, I'm trying to find a portage to make my way back upriver because you can't exit. And then I get to a point where there's the class 4 and it leads into a really big class 5. And you can see the canyon is super steep and it's probably, 4 meters wide or something. And I make the decision that it's better to hike back out to the start of the canyon. And then we did a 15-kilometer portage, again, why we need the pack raft, to the end of the second canyon. And the end of the second canyon was where I saw the caribou, the little caribou and the baby swim.
That was cool.
Yeah.
Little guy shooting some whitewater himself, right?
Can you believe that? I actually can't believe that even happened.
Cool. Hey, little guy, don't do that. No, go away.
I've never even seen, I don't think I've ever seen a caribou before. And throughout the end of the video, when I enter the valley, you see more than you could ever imagine. But at one point, I wake up in the morning and I'm getting ready to run the second half of the second canyon through the slot canyon, which is really cool, crazy. And this caribou shows up, like this mom and its kid. And I was inflating my pack raft and they snuck up behind me. And like the river's really loud, so you don't really hear anything. And I hear something and I turn around and I'm like, oh my God, there's a caribou and its little baby there. And they just walked right towards me. They didn't care. I had to basically run out of the way. You can see. And then they decided to cross the river in the middle of like a class 3 rapid. Sorry.
Those are the kind of sightings that, you only wish for, eh? And the fact that it happens, it makes you say, oh, wow, eh? That's pretty cool. Sorry, Steve's having a bit of a cough attack here. It's not him, it's going to be me, right?
You know what? I have a scratchy throat when you mentioned it. And I was like, oh man, I better be careful how much I talk.
There we go.
Sorry. So then after the baby caribou, which was a great experience, I walked up the river. You can see me paddling up, and I ran the slot canyon in the second canyon, and I had to portage another class 4 there, which was it was unrunnable for me. I think you'd have to be like a Red Bull athlete basically to run it. I confirmed with the Robert Beaudry in 1999 that he did that section. I asked him specifically. I'm like, you ran that class 4 after the second canyon? And he said, yeah. And I was like, I don't even know how you would do it. It looked absolutely insane to me, but it's when you're a pro kayaker. And then it took so long to do the second part of the canyon that I ended up camping on some rocks before the third canyon, even though it was a short day, because once you enter the canyons, it's just difficult to leave and it's dangerous. So camped on the rocks, and then I spent the next day making my way down the third canyon, which is now the highest canyon, but not the biggest whitewater. It's mostly class 3, class 2 plus, all the way through there. And I make my way to La Roncier Falls, which is that huge waterfall that you can see me camping on. Yeah. Like very few people have ever been on the east side where I camped, which is probably one of the best campsites I'll ever have in my life. But there's only been a handful of people in the world that have ever been there. So and then next episode, I'm down climbing the waterfall and making my way down.
paddling at the base of the waterfalls too. That was pretty epic. There's to see stuff like that there, that you don't get to see all the time. Like anybody could go on a trip and do a trip that's, like this summer I went to Wabakimi, right? And not to discredit Wabakimi, but they say 700 paddlers a year approximately paddle the waters of Wabakimi, right? But to go to a place that hadn't been paddled, at least to the best of your recollection, since 1999, and then 1977 before that, to be like the third documented trip within that area. Whether you traverse the whole entire route or not, still it's pretty an amazing feat, in my opinion.
The goal of the trip really was to like bring awareness to the area. Like I'm okay to, like, I'm not too proud to walk a rapid. It doesn't really bother me. I'm there to have fun kind of thing. So, and you can even see some of the stuff that I would portage, we'd probably run here, no problem. When you're with a group of friends and you've got a car to take you to the hospital, but there, if you bang your knee, I had I did that Patagonia expedition. This is years ago. And I paddled the Rio Piney, and I had a really, really, we can get into some of the time, but I lost my boat. I hurt myself really bad. And I had to walk like almost 100 kilometers back to safety. It was really, really tough. So I've been through that before. And yeah, so if I felt there was just any small risk of something bad happening, I just walked around. I just walk it. It wasn't that big a deal.
Why did you take on this expedition, which is a pretty serious and remote expedition? Why solo? Why not? I know it's cool to be there and be yourself, but why not bring a partner for even just for the safety sake of if there's something that happens, if something goes awry, why solo?
There's most of the time it's just impossible to find anybody to go with you, because and you can understand why, because like a trip there. So I think the actual trip was like 11 days, but I was gone for 3 weeks, right? It takes 4 or 5 days to get there and 4 or 5 days to get back. And in 2018, when I went to Baffin Island, I had a partner to go with me, and he bailed before we left, like a couple months before. So I did that solo, and I didn't love the idea of doing that solo. And then this one, it just seemed like, there wasn't a whole lot of people interested in doing something. Although next year I'm going to the Torngats, and I've actually invited a bunch of people, and we'll see who goes. But Evan says he's in, and same with this guy Dave Green, this guy, this other whitewater paddler. Like, I mean, you can come with me.
Evan's getting to be a beast in the YouTube community and the paddling community. And you know what? If you go, don't let him use your axe, as Kevin Callan would say, right?
I saw that. It was the best part of the video. That was the
I
best
know,
part
right?
of the video. He's a
The
good
look
paddler.
on his face, right?
Yeah, so I think the reason for the solo is it just becomes too difficult to plan such an extreme trip, and then it's just time off. Like, who wants to spend 3 weeks living in a little tent?
Yeah.
I do, but not everybody does.
Evan says, "Let's go."
I know he's excited.
He's down for it. So while you were in the first or second canyon, did you have any mishaps? Did you have any close calls? Was it all pretty easy going because you were on the cautious side? What was the?
Yeah, like we had. So generally, when you're running, a rapid, there's kind of either, and they have different classes. Obviously, everyone knows that. Some of them are, you can kind of have a good run out, but with more rocks and whatnot, they become really technical. Like some of them were really, like literally like pinball, right? On the first day, it doesn't seem that bad in the video, because I don't know, maybe it's my personality, but there was one that was a little bit intense for me. I ended up hitting a rock and spinning around, and at the end of the day, nothing happened. We kind of made it down. Kayaks and pack rafts are kind of weird in that way, where you can go down backwards if you want to. You can go down sideways and stuff like that. The only serious thing that happened, the second canyon was pretty good, to be honest. It wasn't that big a deal. And even the slot canyon at the end, when you see me going through those tight little rapids, they were all no problem. Like a lot of high current, probably when you watch it, it probably doesn't look as serious. But when I ran the second slot canyon, that slot canyon is probably, I don't know, 1.5 meters wide. And again, the GoPro kind of takes off, but it's a significant drop and all that stuff. And then I tried to eddy out, but the current was so strong. And I guess I just didn't anticipate it. And below that was something that I wasn't able to run. It was the bigger class 4 stuff. So I had a little bit of a scare getting out there, but nothing bad. And then I don't have a lot of footage of it, but I think on day 6 or 7, so there's no trees to hang your food. So what you do is you bury it under rocks, right? And you hope your best that like a bear doesn't get it or something.
Put an arrow on it in front of it, right? Yeah. So
yeah. So I learned that the first day, because I lost my food the first day. I couldn't find it again on the very first night. I stashed my food, and then I was like, I can't find it. So now I learned, okay, put the arrow. And as I was putting the rocks on, I dropped this huge rock on I can't remember what finger it was. And I know it sounds really funny. The pain was so bad, I can't explain. Just dropped like a 25, or maybe not 25-pound rock, but like a 10-pound rock on the tip of your finger. And so it immediately turned black and was like really bad shape. But that's the type of stuff where a silly injury like that, can end your trip. If I ended up breaking the finger and not being able to paddle, suddenly you've got a little bit of a situation on your hands. But other than that, I was pretty unscathed. I do have a little bit of a grizzly encounter later on where you guys haven't seen yet, and I have a really crazy wolf encounter, which is really nuts. Basically came to my tent. It was not like it was going to attack you, but yeah, it makes you think twice about sleeping.
There you go, everybody. There's a little bit of a teaser for episode 4 right there. So that's great. Steve, we're at the 8:00 break.
Yeah.
Just going to take a quick little commercial break. Good chance for you to empty the bladder or refill it. It's up to you. And we'll see everybody in a short moment here with a swag giveaway as well. So be right back.
There's nothing like being out there. For over 50 years, we've been connecting people with nature by building classic Canadian canoe designs using the best materials available. We built a reputation on durable, dependable canoes that allow you to focus on what's important, whether that's unplugging in remote wilderness, spending quality time with your favorite people, or nailing the perfect line. Visit novacraft.com to find the perfect canoe for you and locate your nearest authorized dealer.
Tonight's episode of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show is brought to you by Kid Products, stick stoves and reflector ovens proudly made in Canada. Algonquin Outfitters, with 5 key locations in and around Algonquin Park to serve your backcountry needs. Salis Marine, keeping you safe on the water since 1999. Ostrom Outdoors, custom fit canoe packs and barrel harnesses. Badger Paddles, handcrafted canoe paddles made to order. And Novacraft Canoes, connecting you with nature in Canadian-made canoes since 1970. And welcome back to the second half of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show with tonight's guest, Steve Evans from Suluk 46. We've been talking about his expedition and exploration through the canyons of Tuktut Nogait. A rather interesting watch. If you haven't already watched or were not even aware of these videos, by all means, get out there and check out Suluk 46 on YouTube and get caught up, because it's a really interesting whitewater trip. And the cool thing about it is it's nonstop action. Right from the time that he's even setting up camp and everything else. But anyways, let's bring Steve back up here on panel. We are going to be doing a swag giveaway tonight. Steve is generously donating a gift for tonight's swag giveaway. And I'm just going to get the information going across screen, and we're going to put Steve, and he can tell us exactly what he's giving to the giveaway tonight.
Yeah, so so we're giving away what we call the Manic Titanium Grill. So this one's actually pretty large. I actually think that maybe Camper Christina has this size, or Martin Pine. I can't remember. Or maybe even Evan or Ben Beauchamp. So 18 by 6 or 7, I can't remember the size. Comes with a carbon fiber storage tube. And this breaks down to fit inside this thing and kind of slip right into your pack. So carbon fiber and titanium grill. And actually, you can pick any size you want. We have 3 sizes. This is the smaller size if you're a little bit, don't need the big one. So the winner can pick any size you want.
Oh, he's got to be the bigger one. Oh, he's got to be the bigger one. Let's see here. I'm trying to get myself back on screen here. There we go. Okay, yeah. So tonight's question for the swag giveaway is: how many postponed attempts did it take before Steve was able to explore the canyons of Tuktut? So by all means, you have until Saturday evening at midnight to get your answers in. On Sunday, I will draw from the correct answers and notify the winner, and then I will share that information with Steve, and he will get that out in the mail to you. So thanks very much for that donation there, Steve. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool. And whoever wins too, I'll throw in a CANOEHOUND Adventures prize pack to boot. That'll come from me.
There you go.
So we gotta carry on here with the rest of the show, because there's quite a bit more to cover. The one thing I wanted to ask is, now I asked you if you had any mishaps while you're on this trip, and had you had a mishap, and judging by that letter, the oh shit letter that you got from the ranger, and how they're not endorsing the trip and the rescue is difficult. What would you have done if you had a situation where you needed to be rescued, or like you say in this case, had you broken your finger and you couldn't paddle? I'm sure you could have fought your way through that, but had you had a more serious broken back, you know what I mean? What was your plan? What was your plan?
So it's a great question, because the park, before they'll issue a permit to you, is going to want to see your safety plan outlined. Everything from like your cold water submersion plan to what happens if you lose your boat to what happens if you break your leg, and you kind of have to lay it out, because they just can't help you. So the way it works generally, and this is one of, I think, like the benefits of kind of traveling light, the trip, and I'll share a gear list later on, but you'll see the gear is really just what is required, to safely paddle these canyons. There's no chair, there's no gourmet meals. Actually, I didn't even need to bring a flashlight because the sun doesn't go down. Like, it's very, very pared down to what we actually need. And it kind of breaks down to two things. So there's the self-rescue aspect of it, right? Which you always know you're about 100 kilometers away from the Arctic Ocean, or let's say Pawtucket, depending on where you are on your trip. So what do you need to get there, and how do you get there? So you plan a route, right? You make sure you can get there. You figure you're going to drop most of the gear, right? So you have just what you need. And so you'll leave the boat behind. You'll leave it for whatever, or if you lose the boat. That was always the plan, the walking back to Pawtucket. Then the other thing comes where it's like a little bit more like of a situation where, let's say, you get injured. So one thing that I always do is, this is going to sound a little bit weird, but you have your tent as your primary shelter. And when you're up there, your secondary shelter is actually all your clothing. So when you put on your dry suit, if you guys have ever been paddling where the water is basically 1 degree Celsius, it's freezing, even though it's 20 degrees Celsius outside. You can put on that, you can put on your helmet, you can put on your balaclava, you can use the pack that I have. This is going to sound really weird as well. It's a roll top dry bag that you can actually use as a half bivy sack, that type of stuff. So in the event that you lose some of your gear, or you lose your tent, because the weather there can vary from, hailstorms to beautiful sunny days that I had. So that's sort of how you would sustain, a long period of time in one area with minimal gear. But the key is that you can actually buy private rescue insurance specifically for people going north of 55 on the latitude. It's actually not that expensive, but you really shouldn't put a price on it. But for, I think because it was so far north, I think it was around $30 a day. And I think it was that. So for $500, you basically have a company, and they have multiple locations. This is what they do. I actually think the government might use them to rescue as well. So you basically pay them in advance. You pay them $500. Then there's this huge deductible of $5,000 that they actually have to rescue you. But yeah, they'll come get you. They'll come get you, which is, you should never really rely on it, but it's pretty common. And some parks, as a matter of fact, like the Torngats, next year we're going to be paddling the Torngats, the Karak and Palmer River. They won't give you a permit without rescue insurance. You have to get it.
Makes sense. And you know what? That's a little bit of peace of mind, even though it might take them days to get to you.
Yeah.
But yeah, by all means. So it's definitely not something arranged by the park. It's something that you have to bestow upon yourself. So what type of a SOS beacon device were you carrying with you?
Oh, I have the InReach Mini. Yeah. It's like I think a lot of people have it nowadays. A couple of years ago, my wife was like, "Please, can you get something?" I used to just go. Like when I went to Patagonia, and even in 2018, when I did Baffin Island, I just went. I was like, "Okay, I'll see you guys in a couple of weeks. I'm out. Polar bears, everything all around me. No big deal." And then I think in 2019, my wife was like, "You got to get something. If no one has it, I have no affiliation with the company. It's an amazing little device. It weighs like, I want to say 2 or 3 ounces. It's the size of a Tic Tac container. And you can send, it's really clunky, but you're not there to post on Twitter or whatever. You can send messages to your family saying, I'm fine. And then of course there's the SOS button. And everybody, if you're doing a big trip or even any trip, your whoever your contact is should have all of the contacts, the park's number, where you're going to be, an itinerary. Everyone should do that.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, you should have that safe person, right? The one that you know is always going to get a message if
Yeah.
or somebody that you can even contact or reach out to coordinate back and forth on your behalf should something happen, right? So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. And then that's where it kind of comes down, like, if it's I mean, at some point, if it's a bear attack or something, you might be there to bleed out, right? And that's just kind of a risk you take on the big trips. But if it's sprained ankle or knee, and then what's also interesting is when you are self-rescuing, when you press the SOS button on that thing, there's some leeway on trying to select how you get done. Like, they don't have to send a helicopter for you. So if you're good, you busted your ankle and you're good for a day or two, you got your tent set up, you can say like, hey man, maybe you guys take an ATV to get me or something. You know what I mean? So you're not,
yeah, yeah.
a huge burden on the system.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
don't want to expel the resources that are an overkill, right? Yeah, sometimes it could be a local village fisherman or something like that
Oh, totally.
contacted to come in and make sure that you're okay, get things
Yeah.
stable. I've heard of that too. Yeah, there's many different rescue ways. Great devices, the Garmin devices, and there's so many of them out there. You got the Garmin Zoleo. Motorola has just come out with a new the Defy. I've been talking about that recently. I just picked one of them up as well to try it out. But yeah, there's all kinds of really neat devices out there. And you know what? Just like you, I got one for my family's peace of mind too. I
Totally.
never used to travel with that, but now that I'm approaching senior status, I think it's a better thing. All the guys I paddle with too are in my age group, and it's good to have that safeguard should somebody have something up here happen or something break or whatever. So yeah.
No, we're all getting there, man. And yeah, what ends up like hurting you on these things is you just you blow the meniscus out in your knee or something like that, or you pull your back muscle so bad that you can't walk for a few days, and you know you don't want to die. Like in the
Mhm.
80s, I think you'd die if you twisted your ankle. I think you'd have to wait until your trip was over.
Yeah.
Somebody would notice you didn't come back. It could be a week later, and
Yeah.
they send a search party out for you.
Sure thing. Sure thing. So now you were mentioning gear. You're in that pack raft that you're using that one that's right behind you there, right? The yellow and
Yeah,
orange.
yeah, that's the yellow one.
How much gear can you fit into one of those things? Because basically, I'm thinking things are pretty tight in that there, which means you're carrying fairly limited gear, right? Let's go full screen here.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see this. Let's see. So this is going to be really weird for me to do. This is actually a zipper at the back. If you look, and
Yeah.
the way it's actually pretty bigger than the. I had so actually they're drying out. I had them out the other week, and usually when you bring them home, you inflate them, so they're usually in my bathroom. To be honest, I just brought them in here for the show. So that actually unzips. That's an airtight zipper. And on each side, you have like I want to say 25 or 30-liter dry bags that clip into it. So all the gear, when you see me on the river, I don't have any gear. It's all stored inside the tubes.
Wow.
Yeah. So it stores inside it, and then those dry bags actually become secondary flotation devices. If you ever did pop the main tube, and you were like, some of the rapids that I did were like a kilometer long. Like that one was like a 600-meter class 3. So if you deflated halfway through, you could have a pretty significant problem. So then the big dry bags inside are actually like secondary cylinders. But yeah, all the gear stores inside. I built a map. Part of the reason for going to this place, why the park was so excited for me to go, on one hand, they didn't want to take any risks of like condoning the trip, but on the other hand, they're very excited about like me building a map and bringing some information. So on the map that I built, and you can download that from my website. If you just go to my website under the adventure section.
Want me to put that on screen now?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah. So this is the map that I built. And then in the top right-hand side, just down, it'll say reference gear list. It'll be hard to see here because this image is actually, the size of a giant poster when you download it.
Right.
So you'll be able to zoom in. But the gear list, you can kind of see everything that I have. And this is a pretty typical gear list for me for what I would call a warm Arctic trip, where I wasn't expecting temperatures much lower than 0 to -5-ish or so. Some areas you get like in other places you get way more colder weather and snow and
that's in
whatnot.
July.
Yeah, you really only that's July. So July will be at night 0, let's say. So somewhere around there, and it could be worse. There is times when I was on Baffin Island, which almost is like a little bit more south than where this was. I spent 2 days in a tent during like a severe snowstorm in August. It never really kind of goes away.
Mm-hmm.
But the gear list will give you an idea of how it's possible to do it.
Can you just read through that yourself? Do you have the ability? Can you read that?
Oh,
let us know kind of what you brought, because some of the stuff that you brought, besides the fact that you produce lightweight camping gear, you were lightweight. You were like kind of bare minimum when it come to stuff, right?
Yeah. If I zoom in, does it zoom in on you?
Let's see. There we go.
Do I go back to you?
Let's do it this way here. Sorry. And there.
Ooh, geez, that's even tough for me to see. So, yeah, and these are what's also good about. I can zoom in a little bit and read it. So, what's also good about I don't want to say good, but let's say you can trust the gear that I have. Is like I don't really have like any sponsors or anything. I'm just like a guy that buys really like lightweight stuff. So all of this stuff, most of it will be available from what I call like cottage makers, companies like mine that are a handful of people making some stuff in a small shop. So,
Right.
you know what I mean? You're not going to be able to get this from Mountain Equipment Co-op or anything like that. This will be, stitched by a few people working on the weekend kind of stuff. And that's really how most of I shouldn't say everything, but that's really how most of my stuff is. So I brought what was called a ULA Epic Dry Pack, it's called Ultralight Adventure Gear, which is a company they're in the States somewhere. I actually kind of friends them. I can't remember exactly. My pack, it's specific for kayaking. It's basically a lightweight dry bag in like a mesh. It's not like a canoe dry pack, to be honest. It's just a little bit more. It's multi-use. It also is a bivy sack, and it's got some extra kind of pockets and whatever. My shelter was this. This will seem kind of crazy, probably, just if you're not used to it. But I brought a 1 pound tent with me, and the tent is basically a coffin. If you look at it, it's 24 inches wide by 90 inches long. It's held up with 2 trekking poles and
dude, you're taller than 90 inches, aren't you?
It's like I'm rated the.
You're a tall fella. I met you. I know. I'm
Yeah,
tall,
so
and I'm kind of looking up at you.
There's room. It's like there's like 6 inches at the top bottom, but it's just really it's really really tight. And these are the type of, I don't want to say sacrifices, but the things that you'll need to do to keep it like your pack small enough. Another thing that I use is I don't use a sleeping bag. I use what's called a quilt. The one I have is from Enlightened Equipment. It's actually a buddy of mine that started a company the same time as me. And a quilt is, instead of having a zipper on your sleeping bag, it just goes on top of you and kind of like wraps around you. So like a blanket. And the logic with that is that you save the weight of of half a sleeping bag. So you've got like, 3/4 of a sleeping bag and you don't have a zipper. So I think that's a -6 bag or something like that I brought. And, you can see it weighs 1 pound, 3 ounces kind of thing, like very, very, very low. You can see my spare clothing. What I do, I generally have, this is going to sound also terrible for people, but I don't really change a whole lot on these type of trips. So I'll bring 2 pairs of socks, 2 pairs of underwear, and then 1 of everything else. And then I'll bring.
I take extra clothes on my trip, and I unpack and put them back on my dresser when I get home. So I never change on my trips either.
Yeah, I tell, when I tell people this, I say, just embrace the stink. Like, just embrace it. You're out there, you can try and keep clean if you want, but you're generally going to be pretty dirty. So I just, every other day or every 2 days on this trip, I actually went a little longer. I'll wash my socks and just rinse them in the lake or something. Or if you want to put soap, make sure you do it in the like out of the lake or the water. For my kitchen, I brought just a 2-cup pot, just enough to boil water for like a freeze-dried meal. Freeze-dried meals generally take 500 milliliters of water, so that's all I would boil once a night. And I have this custom prototype stove that uses something called Esbit. If no one's used Esbit, it's like an old military fuel. And it's actually my preferred fuel because it doesn't spill. It's like kind of rock solid. You can get it wet and you can actually fly with it. That's what makes it a little bit better for me on these type of trips.
Yeah, it's a solid little brick, right? What, about inch and a
Yeah.
half long by inch by
Yeah,
inch
it's just,
type of.
it looks like a little domino basically. If you're into, like, if you really want to keep really light stuff, it's expensive. It's like 50 cents each, but I've been using it for years. And I should say that this is not my gear for everything. Like, I very much just went on a 7-day canoe trip with my wife where I brought 6 liters of red wine, Spaducci, like everything you can imagine through Killarney. Like, it depends on the trip is the gear that I bring, kind of thing. And then just as you go down, just some regular stuff. There's my camera equipment. So the whole thing was filmed on 2 GoPros. And then as you get closer, that Dennis, you made that joke about cutting the toothbrush in half. I count my toilet paper sheets for each day and my toothpicks and all that stuff.
How many tickets do you need, Steve? How many tickets do you need?
Yeah, and so I had without all my paddling gear and everything. So you can imagine this, if you guys are double carrying on a big portage or something, all my gear minus the paddling gear was 14.5 pounds. So it's like,
Wow.
Yeah, you can almost kind of run into it. And you know what? I'll quickly answer that what kind of contingency do you build into your food allowance? You don't, because you actually bring one less day and you ration your foods, which do not follow what I do.
So you were traveling hungry pretty much throughout this whole trip, right? You were riding the hungry edge all the time.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily hungry. It's bringing like a reasonable amount of calories on the trip. And then, if nights are there where, what, I can probably go without eating, you go without eating. Because don't forget, like on this trip, I know Dennis took it down, you can keep it down, but it was 14 pounds of gear, 18 pounds of my pack raft kit, and like 13 pounds of food. So the food is almost as heavy as your gear. And that's with me paring it down, that's with me kind of paring it down. So when I came back, I had no food left. On my last day, I finished my food. Yeah.
Wow. And what was the first burger joint you hit?
It's in the video. It's in the video.
Okay, I'll wait to see.
It's better. Let me just say that I bumped into some people on the very last day, and it was incredible.
Everything on the left side, I want it all.
Yeah. So generally with food, I treat the same thing. I bring what's necessary, and then if you end up being like a day or 2 late, you're not going to die. You're not going to die.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Yeah. Well,
everybody else is like,
we can go without food, right? Yeah.
I know everybody else will tell you that, and I think you should bring a day. You should bring a day's extra food just in case. I just personally don't.
Yeah.
So
I'm just going to throw the invite up here if anybody wants to pop up here and ask a question. I've also been starring all the questions throughout the chat here that we can get up on screen here in a short bit. If my spelling is wrong, sorry, I'm doing it in a panic. There we go. Just posting the link if anybody wants to join us for a quick question or two. But okay, so now you had a animal encounter with those caribou. You said you had a couple of other. Is it something you want to share, or would you rather wait until the videos come out that we could see that?
No, I don't think at all. There's a section in so the canyons don't have a lot of obviously animals in them. It's the canyons. And what didn't make it into the video is on I think my first day hiking, I saw a caribou really far away, and but I only have a GoPro, so I took some video, and I was like, man, I can't believe I saw a caribou, but it didn't really look good, so we didn't put it in the video. I didn't realize that at the end of the canyon, you enter this valley section to the Arctic Ocean, and you're going to see hundreds and thousands of caribou and stuff like that. And there's one section in particular that they call the grizzly corridor. And so it's very much like where the grizzly bears go and they pull all the fish out of the water. It's probably like, I think they call it Katmai or something. Mm-hmm. So the park had warned me, when you're here, be really careful. And I don't have a lot of bear experience. Like I've been in bear country, like black bears for sure. I've seen tons of them around here, but I've only ever seen a couple of grizzly bears in my life. Like they're just not around here. So as I actually say on the camera, I'm like, oh, we're coming to the grizzly corridor. And then I come around this corner and it's kind of like white water. And I look at the side of the river and I'm like, I think that's a grizzly bear. I'm like, no, I don't think so. And then I've never seen one run. I've never seen a grizzly bear, like other than on TV, run. They're the fastest things I've ever seen. This thing ran towards me so fast. It must have covered a football field in, I don't know, like it seemed like 10 seconds. I actually didn't even have enough time to pull my camera out of my bag. Like I just had my little time set or my headset, and it ran all the way to the edge of the river. And the river was really shallow. And I thought, okay, well, he's going to like attack me, I guess. And so I pulled out my bear spray, and then he like just didn't really care about me after that. He just turned around and kind of walked up the hill. But man, they are fast. They are like fast as a dog. Like, I mean, just top speed. Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, wow. That's I'm looking forward to it. Nothing worse than seeing an animal so far away and you pull out the camera and it's not even worth getting the shot, right? That's the only thing for the GoPro is you got no real easy zoom on those things. I think you can do a digital zoom, but you got to start fiddling. And
it really, I tried my best and also don't forget, I think when you're having a grizzly encounter, your heart rate and your adrenaline is so high that everything that happens, when I tell you that it covered a football field in like 1 second, it actually ran like 10 meters in a minute. You know what I mean? Like it's just like
I'll go with you on the first one.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We do have a couple of people that have popped into the basement here. We'll start off with Pi Martin. He's always got some interesting questions. How you doing, Martin?
I'm very well, thanks. How are you doing?
Good. Welcome to the panel. What do you got for Steve here?
Thanks. Well, I actually don't have a question because, well, first of all, Steve, it's good to see you.
Good to see you.
I have not watched the videos of this trip. I make it a point. I never watch the videos like in installments. I wait until the series is done. I do the same thing with Jim Barron's videos. I wait until it's all done and then I binge watch, and I do the whole thing. So I'm completely behind the times. So this entire episode has been spoilers for me.
Oh, not spoilers. Something to look forward to.
But yes. But anyway, no, I want to come on because I've known Steve for a couple of years now, at least. And I know him by way of his product line. Actually, I heard of him actually before that in a different way. Gord Baker. From Algonquin Outfitters contacts me and says, hey, there's this guy. He wants to cross Algonquin on his bike. Do you have any information? Might you be able to, or something like that, And I said, yeah, let me look. And I started looking. I said, hey, I seem to remember there was a guy. That's the guy he should talk to. And the guy I was thinking of that Steve needed to talk to was Steve.
I remember that.
Some posts where he had posed some questions and answered other people's questions about exactly this route. So I was completely unhelpful to him.
I was contacting people from Huntsville because I knew the Huntsville area.
Oh, is that it? Yeah. Okay.
The Crownland area was tough for me.
Yeah. I might be telling the story wrong, so correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember it went down that way.
Yeah.
But then I was looking for a lightweight stove, a twig stove. I'm a big fan of twig stoves, and I discovered the Una stove, which is the stove that Steve makes. It's this little gem here. It comes in 2 sizes. It's unbelievably light. I wish I could show you. I wish I could convey how light this thing is. Anyway, it's fantastic. It works really, really well. And after I got that, Steve said, hey, I'm testing out a new saw. Would you be interested in checking out this prototype? I had some suggestions for him, and he came up with this thing that he just showed. Okay, so this is going to be a complete plug for this saw. Have you named this saw yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, anyway, it's a silky blade, so it works like a silky saw. Okay, but whereas a silky saw has this huge stainless steel handle and this huge heavy rubber grip, this thing weighs the smallest fraction of that. And it's even got a thinner profile, and it's really comfortable to hold. This is the best saw I've ever used.
There we go.
Absolutely the best camping saw I've ever used. The most versatile. It's even got even the two the two settings,
Positions.
the blade angles, the two positions. It's all there. This has everything that the Silky Gone Boy has for a smaller volume and a small fraction of the weight. It's absolutely the best saw on the market. And then I've been testing out this grill, which is fantastic, beautifully light. It's really, really solid. It assembles and disassembles really, really easily. And like you said, it fits in this tiny little tube. So it just slides down your pack. And I don't camp with a grill. I just camp on my campfire is just a campfire. I just put my pots on rocks or right on the coals or something like that. I don't use a grill. I have never used a grill because they're always too cumbersome. They take up too much space, and then you have to strap them to the outside of your pack. If you put them inside of your pack, you got to put them in something because they get all sooty. This solves every single problem. It's super light and it's compact. It tucks away. And so, yeah, now I use a camping grill for the first time in 15 years. So anyway, I wanted to plug those products because every product of Steve's that I have used has been top quality, super light. I recommend them with enthusiasm.
Martin works for me, by the way.
Yes.
He's your marketing guy.
Yeah, just wait till you get
that's pretty cool. I know of quite a few people that are using Sulik 46 gear, and I haven't heard a bad thing about them yet. So, yeah.
All right.
Kudos to the
engineering. I said my
that
piece. I don't have a question because I haven't seen the series yet, but I'm looking forward to watching it.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Thanks very much. Have a great night.
Thanks,
gentlemen.
Martin. We'll talk later.
Cheers.
Yeah, it's always nice to get accolades about your accomplishments, right? Whether it's a trip or the gear, wonderful gear that you're producing. So that's cool. We have another probably familiar face here in the basement. We still do have a few more questions to get to as well, but we'll get Santa LaFave up here. How you doing there, Evan?
There he is.
How's it going, buddy?
What's going on, man?
Not too much.
What have you got for us tonight, Evan?
Did I leave any change in the thing there when I fell over?
What are you talking about?
Yeah, is there any spare change there that I dropped when I flipped in that thing?
So me and Evan went paddling last weekend and almost died of hypothermia.
Here, actually, check this out. I was at Dennis. Are you okay if I just show a quick 2-second little dippity do on here?
Sure. Sorry, I had mute because I was.
Oh, here, I'll stop sharing. It looks like I'm still sharing. There we go.
No, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
First time here. Open settings. Let's go. We could do this.
Pressure's on.
Pressure's on, baby. We got it.
Well, you were supposed to be ready, Evan.
Wait, okay, never mind. Let's not do that. I have to activate my computer.
Hit the present button at the bottom, and then find the screen tile that you're looking for.
It says I gotta quit to with the permissions. Anyways, yeah, I had my first little swim in the ice. So Steve is a great guy. He didn't let me just swim down the icy river. Him and DJ, they were there swiftly and promptly to get me out of the icy water. So he's a good guy.
Was that the river rescue I seen you make mention of in one of your Instagram posts or something?
That was a week before. So then the weekend after that, we went back and then there was snow this time. So
you're making a habit of that, eh?
Yeah, it's become good fun. I do have a question for you, buddy.
Yes, sir.
Who's your inspiration? Like, who's your biggest inspiration?
Yeah, that's a tough question. Okay, I don't want to leave like dead space, but so definitely currently, like right now, so I love multi-sport athletes, right? Like that's big what I'm into, very unique trip. So some of the people you might not know, but Eric Boomer, huge paddler. If you follow him, he's like epic stuff. He lives in Iqaluit, does that stuff. Ryan Atkins, if you see Good Waterloo Boy, he would be great on the show, Dennis. Ryan Atkins, he's the world OCR athlete. He went to Waterloo Engineering. He won. Yeah, he's the fittest man alive, and he did the La Cloche Silhouette Trail in 9 hours. Like, just think of that in your mind doing that, right? Like, he went and did the Iditarod his first year. He won it. He signed up for the first year. He won it. He biked for like 80 hours straight without sleeping. Like so those two guys. There's yeah, there's a couple of people, you know, Ray Zahab, if you guys know him, the desert runner, you know, those are the stuff. But then, so those feats are incredible. Vincent Collier is just leaving for the South Pole, actually, probably in like a couple days or two. He has some of my gear. He's going to break the world record from Hercules Inlet to the South Pole. Everyone's probably like, what about like canoeing and stuff like that? But but for sure. And then you've got like the local, like let's say the local adventures. I very much do watch, you know, I think everybody. So like Evan, I've told you before, I think you do great cinematic stuff. There's that other young guy, Ben Beauchamp, but I watch like Xander and Lost Lakes. Jim Barrett I've been watching for years. You know, he's been someone that you know, he grinds. And actually, you know who really puts in work is Camper Christina. Have you seen how much work she puts in? Like it is going. It's probably the
She's
equivalent.
the Iron Woman of the backcountry for paddling. That's for sure. Yeah.
And I've told Dennis this before. Like I don't know if everyone realizes what it takes to do this show like every single week. You know what I mean? So it's like you contact someone every week. You know, I had to prepare some stuff. Dennis is preparing some stuff. Like that's the grind. You know what I mean? So inspiration wise, it's and the other thing also is I was looking up this river in BC called the Kusawa River, a crazy whitewater river. You know, only a handful of people have done it. I find a video on YouTube and it's got like 1,200 views. It's of this guy named Ben Smith. And he just does the whole thing. And I'm like, wow, this is an epic adventure, but no one really watches it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
sometimes YouTube doesn't give the credit to the videos that deserve the credit, right?
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's like, I think, you know, and then I hope I don't forget someone, but that would be like who they really are. When I was younger, it was probably a little bit more mountaineering type people that were doing big ascents. But yeah, I just really like weird, unique trips. Like that's kind of
keeping the event alive, right?
Totally. You know what we'll do? We'll do on the Torngats when we're on the Karak. We'll do a Keep the Adventures Alive plug.
There you go.
Yeah.
For sure. If I can't be there, at least my plug can be there.
Yeah. I hope that answered your question, man.
Yeah, that's great, man. Great seeing you. I'll take off from now. And by the way, he went down in the ledge. This guy, Steve, man, he went down in the ledge like first time solo canoe. He did all of Palmer Rapids, didn't flip. Very impressed.
Yeah, that's a quirky little boat, man. I got to get used to that.
Have a good night, guys.
Awesome. Yeah. Stick around for the green room if you want, Evan.
Cool. Take care.
Talk to you in a bit. Wow, that's cool. We do have another person in the green room down here. I'll be with you in just a moment. But I had a question for you.
Yeah.
Did you voluntarily or involuntarily go for a couple swims on this adventure, or did you keep the boat upright?
Yeah, the boat was upright for the most part. There was one or two like real close calls on the first day. It doesn't look like it, but I almost slipped in the first day, and I was expecting to swim, to be honest. Like I thought I'd swim, but it was really low water, like very, very low water. And as you'll see as I get out to the valley, it's a couple of inches deep for very long sections. So sometimes when the water is rushing really fast in a deeper section, then there's a drop. And if it's really shallow, you know, it catches the bottom or the side of your boat and you do a little like teeter totter kind of thing. But I never actually swam on the trip, which is almost unusual for someone like me.
Yeah. And previous to this, what is your whitewater experience? Do you have any certifications? Have you taken courses? Are you self-taught?
Yeah. No, I'm like, I still take courses now. I've been taking whitewater courses probably for a decade, or maybe not a decade, but close to it. My whitewater experience was like, I grew up as a flatwater paddler, you know, like Ontario was full of lakes. So I did all that. And then I remember, you know, I was probably 25-ish. I did probably some whitewater trips that like I probably shouldn't have done. Like I wasn't ready. I ran some bigger, like not waterfalls, but drops and stuff in a canoe. And then I was mostly hiking, and I really got back into it maybe in the early, like 2013, 2014. And the instructor actually at Paddlers Co-op at the time his name was Ryan O'Connor. And now I know him actually so well now. He's like a good buddy of mine. I stay at his house. So he trained me for big water over the last, let's say, 2 years. If you see, I did all the high water routes. Like I did the Des Moines in high water solo, which was like absolutely swollen. Like when I was doing that one, Wally Shaber sent me a note and was like, you shouldn't do it. The water level's too high. I'm like, I'm going. And then I did Iowa Canyon. It was a little bit low. I did the middle Mad and the lower Mad multiple times at really, really high water to kind of get ready for the trip. And then when I got there, the water level was super low. so go figure. Yeah. So,
cool.
But no certifications, just training, just sort of like training under Ryan mostly.
A weekend warrior with a higher libido, right? There you go.
Yeah, right. I'll put a plug in for Paddlers Co-op for sure. I mean, if you guys, if anybody wants to run whitewater and has never ever done it in their life, just go to Paddlers Co-op and pay whatever it is, $100. They'll give you a boat and they'll take you down the lower Mad, and it will be the best experience of your life. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I missed out on an opportunity for that with Riley. She organized the whole thing there, and I just couldn't make it swing. Family guy, too much time, or not enough time on his hands, right? So, yeah. Jeez.
Yeah.
We have another guest in the basement here. Let's bring him up. Not keep him waiting too long, and he's going to come sing another intro for us. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
Oh.
Hey, friends. It's good. How are you guys doing?
Good.
It sounds like all of us have a little bit of that.
We got three throats here on screen, and we haven't been together, so it's
I'm just emotional to be able to see you guys live in the flesh again. Yeah, it's good. So
what's up, man?
I'm just recovering, and I'm wondering. My question for you, brother, is: you're such a Spartan tripper, right? Like super lightweight. You even go lightweight on your food, like you go really, really hardcore. And I wonder if do you bring any sort of like reading materials? I know for this trip, you brought like, things, maps and stuff like that to document your trip, but do you bring reading material? If so, what is it? Or do you bring games? What do you bring to, or is it just you tire yourself out so much you're already asleep standing up?
Yeah, I really I wish that it was, and to be clear, actually, this is just for this style of trip. I definitely have different kind of versions. No, there was nothing. One thing that I did do is when we pulled that map up, we took it down. Now, I brought basically that map with no river notes on it because I built the map on it. So at night, I would make all my notes and stuff like that. But you're on those trips, it's actually really weird because you're by yourself and the sun doesn't go down. So, and the sun really doesn't go down. Like it really, really doesn't go down. So, 4 o'clock in the morning, the sun is still kind of there. Actually, by the end of the trip, it was getting a little bit lower. So you're just staring at the wall of your tent.
Right. So then that's when the demons come out, man.
Well, that's when you start hearing noises and you start thinking about the grizzly bears.
Right.
Yeah.
And the splash of every rapid turns into a bear running across the river at you.
It's just I think the enjoyment for me just comes like out of the trip. I also I live like a pretty hectic, let's say, lifestyle. Like I'm quite busy, and it's I've said this before to people. Like my life is very like it's technology driven. So we're an engineering company essentially, right? So we're doing a ton of engineering. We're on computers all day long, laptops. We're manufacturing stuff. We're doing stress analysis and whatever. And when I go to out like on a trip, I just decompress.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hang the brain up and go on a trip, right?
Yeah. Even social media, like for the most part, like 90% of our social media and email blasts are probably me. It'll be a small portion that like my wife might do or something like that. But just to keep up with all that, and it can just be a lot. I would imagine it's a lot for anybody who's doing that type of stuff, right? Like the YouTube game, the Instagram game, it's just a lot. So I just go, and if I lie in my tent for 3 hours with my eyes open or closed, just sitting there, I'm okay with it. So
social media, whether it's Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, it takes on a full-time job. I know I get my reports at the end of the week on my phone, right? It tells you
Yeah.
how much and where you've been spending your time on your phone. It's like, oh my God, I was on Instagram for that long, or I was on YouTube for that long.
Yeah.
Right? And it's amazing how quickly it adds up on you, and especially if it's not constructive, right? I watch a lot of YouTube. We don't have cable TV. So my entertainment is either the Maple Leafs game on whatever night they're playing, or I'm on YouTube, right? That's my entertainment. So
Just as an aside, I just have to say in passing. So Sherry and I, as Steve was saying, we met up and we had a lunch, a fantastic lunch with Steve after he ran the Agawa this spring. And as we do, you make a friend and you want to know that they've made it home okay. So I texted him the next day, hey man, hopefully, because he was driving through the evening, and I was like, hey, just want to reach out and make sure everything went well on your trip home, and nice to meet you yesterday and everything. And I was not expecting the text, which was Steve in traction.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I sent Jay the picture of me with like the big neck brace on the gurney. Yeah, I'm like, oh dude, you're not gonna believe this. So here's a lesson. And everyone knows this. There's actually a story about why I drove home. We don't have to get into it, but it was Sunday night. I met Jay and Sherry. We had lunch, and I was like, I'm gonna make it to Sudbury. And then I got to Sudbury around midnight. I thought I should get a hotel. I talked to my wife. She said, get a hotel. And I'm like, I had a trade show in Denver at the end of the week, and we were flying 3 people out there plus the booth. And I was like, you know what? If I leave tonight, I'll be home at 4:00 in the morning. And 20 minutes outside of Sudbury, I smoked the moose. Yeah.
Oh,
not worth it, man.
Yeah,
just not worth it, man. So,
but ever since then, I haven't been texting people to see if they've made it home okay.
Hey Jay, I made it home okay.
I saw that you did, but I didn't ask.
And that's probably because we didn't have lunch together, although we tried.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, my wife loves the song, by the way, Jay.
What's that, brother?
The song, the intro song.
Oh, right on.
Yeah, because I think you can download it, right?
Can you?
I don't know. I said I'll ask him. I thought you could download it on like, I don't know, iPhone, iTunes Music or something. I don't know. No,
you're talking about my intro?
Yeah.
No,
your intro.
I don't think so.
Did you put it on YouTube Music? No, it's part of the show. Yeah.
Okay, whatever. It's great.
If you message me privately, I know a guy.
yeah.
Hey.
It's great. It's great.
You guys, man. Loving the series, Steve. Be well.
Thanks,
stay awesome.
Thanks, man. You too.
Hey, if you want to hit the green room after, you're more than welcome to join in. Hold the link or just stay in the basement. Thanks, buddy. Whoop. Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, it's funny because on our way back from Wabakimi, we on the way up and on the way back, we tried to connect with Jay. On the way up, he was doing a concert, or he was playing for some music festival. On the way back, we tried, but we happened to be going through the Sioux. He was him and Sherry were both at work, and it just didn't turn out. But he did steer me on to a great place to get some apple fritters at along the Lake Superior trail there, which was awesome. I don't know if you hit that place up.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. He just took me to we had lunch. It was great. Super nice.
Yeah. So you were mentioning the sun was up for like 24/7. That actually posed quite a bit of problems for you too, didn't it?
Well, it's I was not wearing proper sun protection, and it was overcast for the most part, and I had spent a few days beforehand. So I went to Pawlatuck. It was by the time the video series started, it was like almost a week into it, right? Like it was because I'd already kind of been there, and I wasn't wearing any sun protection. But the sun, and it's overcast, it just beats down on you kind of like 24/7. And the example I gave is, when you go on vacation, you can feel the heat. Well, the sun is out, but you don't feel the heat. You're not like hot. So I got a really bad sunburn on the insides of my ears, like as the sun was kind of going down. So I didn't catch it till probably, I want to say day 5 or something. Day 5, I was like, oh, my face feels weird. And then I was feeling my ears. I'm like, oh no. So yeah, it ended up cooking my skin a little bit.
Did you have sunscreen with you, or were you just relying on your clothing? Like,
no, I have like a little. I have the this little, it's almost like chapstick for your face. It's like what skiers use, like, you know, so
Right.
wind and stuff like that. I just generally don't put it on unless I just didn't think of it, to be honest. And you know, I've this is one thing also to keep in, and you know this from flat water paddling, you can get even like not snow blind, let's call it, but you got to be careful even if your eyes is a reflection off the water, or the reflection. What it'll do is you see like people who are fishing all day, they'll wear the thing because you'll get a sunburn on the inside of their nostrils. I know it sounds weird, but as you're out there as if you're out there for a long time, even in the wintertime, I climbed a place in Colorado called Quandary Peak, and I went snow blind on day 2 just from not wearing sunglasses. So yeah, you just got to be careful, and it's something that I was fine, but
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So we got about 10 minutes left, or maybe 7 minutes left. Logistically, transportation from home to there, and then from there back home. What was the what were your modes of transportation? What was it like getting there and getting back? Because you said you were gone for 11 days on the trip, but you were gone for 3 weeks total.
And this was, I mean, everything in the world happened to try and stop me from not going there. I had a confirmed float plane on Thursday at like 11 a.m. Parks Canada paid for it. But it was leaving without me, right? Like it was going to leave regardless if I was there or not. And I was leaving, I think, on Monday and arriving in Polituck on Wednesday. I would stay the night and leave Thursday. On my way to the, I left 3 hours early because it was an international flight. I had to go to Vancouver. I got a text as I got in the Uber that my flight had been canceled. And I'm like, what? So I went to I actually told my wife. My wife was like, you should come home. And I'm like, no, I'll go to the airport. I'll figure it out. I went to the airport and I'm like, you need to put me on a flight to I had to get to Yellowknife to catch my next one. And so I flew Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Yellowknife, spent the night. I think I got to look at the map. Then Yellowknife, Norman Wells, Inuvik. And then I took like a Twin Otter or something to Polituck, and my flight was delayed. So after I finally made it to Yellowknife, which I didn't think I was going to, I thought for sure my bags would be gone. They ended up showing up. I spent 8 hours in Yellowknife. Then I flew Norman Wells, Inuvik, but it was delayed. And the cool thing about these little airlines, I flew Aklak Air. I actually sent them an email. I said, hey, I'm coming in. And these are like 6-seater planes, right? I'm like, can you wait for me? And when I got there, I was probably like 5 minutes early for the flight. I just got there in time, and I went up to the thing and I said, oh, I'm Steve. I'm the guy that emailed you. And he said, oh, the flight already left. And I'm like, oh, are you serious? And then he goes, no, I'm just kidding. It's delayed by 2 hours. And I'm like, what? That's not even funny. Well, luckily it was delayed. I made that flight. And then the next day I went on the whatchamacallit? I went on the float plane in. And on the way back, I flew from Polituck to Inuvik, and I spent the night in Inuvik. And when we landed in Yellowknife, because it's such a small airport, there was no airport personnel there. We almost missed the flight, but I didn't. I missed it in Vancouver instead. So I spent the night basically in the airport, and then I flew home the next day. So 4 days to get there, 3 to get back. So you're a week, let's say, to do it.
And when was the first time you re-encountered people? Was it
yeah. So on the last day, actually, there's some research going on for the Arctic char. It was beluga season up there, which can be like a little bit disturbing to see. But anyway, so as you get to the Arctic Ocean, which is where my trip kind of ended, and then I had to hike back to Polituck, there was a research. They call them DFO, Department of Fish and Oceans, I think. I actually became friends with the guy, and I spent a night in their camp. They're the ones that fed me. That's the great story. So yeah, they were doing some sonar for Arctic char on the Arctic Ocean, and I bumped into him as I came in.
That's amazing, eh? That far up, eh? And they're doing,
Yeah, the whole pretty significant setup too. Like significant setup that they had all there. So they were there for like something like 2 months. So
wow.
And so they were like, "Who the hell are you?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm coming off this river." Actually, there's another. I know we're running out of time. I'll tell you guys in the green room. I bumped into Adam from Alone up there.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. He was paddling the Northwest Passage as I was coming into Polituck. So him and Maddie were.
Maddie,
Yeah. He was coming in the bay, basically as I was coming off the Arctic or off the Hornaday Canyons, hiking back in, I'm like, "Who are you?" Yeah, and he was like, "You're
That is
crazy."
crazy because I was following their expedition. Adam and Maddie they were trying to do the Northwest Passage by rowboat,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
built their own rowboats and outfitted them. And I won't everything's all documented on their Facebook and Instagram and stuff that they were unsuccessful. But they give it a hell of a go, and I'm trying to get him on the show. But Maddie just wants to settle because he kind of took it pretty hard that he did not complete the passage. So if you happen to see him, Steve, tell him we got to finish
Yeah.
arranging their date here on the show because I think
Yeah.
that'd be a really interesting story.
I spent like 3 days with the guy at the end of the expedition. It was great. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah. That's cool. So had he already had his expedition already finished? Yeah.
Yeah, he bailed. I don't use the word bailed. He had the challenges in the Pawlatuck Inlet, and so they were coming in by boat, and I was coming in by foot from the Hornaday River, and I was like, "What are you guys doing?" He's like, "What are you doing?" So we actually the community is so nice. They're the most lovely people in the world. You know, you go to the community center, they give you caribou stew, and so I hung out with the guy for a couple of days, and we waited for our flights.
Wow, that's incredible! What a small world.
So small.
When you think about it, like that's like boom, that's a mind blower that you would actually run into somebody like that way out there. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's so crazy.
Wow, Steve, thank you very much for sharing this story with us here on your Tuesday night. I really appreciate it. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm thoroughly enjoying the series, and that's why I wanted to have you on here. And I am so looking forward to the next series or next episode, which is when?
Tomorrow at 6 p.m. if everything goes well.
Tomorrow? 6 p.m.
I think it's tomorrow. Yeah, isn't it?
I think it's something to watch tomorrow.
I do it every 2 weeks. Yeah, tomorrow at 6 p.m. is the plan. I still have some editing to do, to be honest.
Man, I better not keep you too long. No, you know, I've been finding that on YouTube of late. I've watched so much of it that I'm beginning to get tapped out. I'm starting to look at things that I'm really starting to dig deep for new stuff because that, like I say, maybe I'm a YouTube junkie. I don't know.
I probably watch too much too. I really do. Yeah. It's on.
Great.
It's on like almost all day in the shop. Like during the day, we just like watch stuff.
Yeah. So now people could catch up on your series on your YouTube channel, which is
Suluk 46.
Suluk 46. And what if they're interested in some of your highly engineered products? Where can they find that?
Yeah. So website www.suluk46.com. And you just go there. You can buy it right off there. We also have a bunch of distributors around here. We don't have any in Ontario, but if you're watching from the States or anything, Garage Grown Gears are a big one down there. And then we have Gear Trade in Alberta. I got to look. You can go on my website and find the distributors. Sorry, I got to see. Or you can just buy directly from us.
Yeah, you know what? Buy it right directly from the source, and you'll know exactly what you're getting. All the links to Steve's social media feeds and YouTube and his website are all in the description of this show video here. So by all means, please do go and check it out and support another small business that's doing great things for the outdoor community. Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate it so much.
Thank you so much for having me, man. Been watching a long time. I think it's a fantastic Tuesday night show. My wife and I watch it regularly, so I appreciate it. Hope everyone had a good time.
Thanks. And I also have to throw one more thank you at you too. And you've been a supporter of the show here. Just recently, somebody had just pointed it out there asking if I actually had my new microphone. And yes, new microphone. And Steve was a big part of that. So I greatly appreciate that because this stuff, we were talking earlier about YouTube earnings and stuff like that. And some of the big stuff, they're making money up here. And then there's Dennis down here and stuff. And when I say this stuff comes out of my pocket, it does unless people help channel members and people like yourselves who buy coffee or help in that way. So thanks, man. You're a great advocate for the outdoor community, not only for myself, but for many others. And keep the lightweight gear coming, man. I got to try one of them girls myself.
Yeah,
for sure.
We'll get one. Maybe you'll win the contest.
I can't do that, man. I got to be a lucky winner over there. I'm going to post that question one more time for anybody that may have missed it before we make Steve disappear into the green room here. But the question for tonight's swag giveaway was, how many postponed attempts did it take before Steve was able to explore the canyons of Tuktut? You have until Saturday evening at midnight to get your answer in. I will do a draw. I will contact the winner and get all the information all spread around. And the winner will get one of these really cool lightweight titanium grills that Steve produces through Sulik 46. So thanks for that offering, Steve. Greatly appreciated. And we'll see you shortly in the green room. Cheers, man. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed tonight's episode of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show with Steve from Sulik 46. It was a fun show, and like I say, I love getting people on when I'm watching their series, especially when it's nice and fresh, you know, when it comes across, because it excites me, especially knowing that there's still more coming down the pipe. And I know as much as you all do, just what I heard here tonight. So be sure to check out this series. It's really cool. If you like whitewater and canyons, great scenery, but I'll warn you, there's no trees. By all means, please do check that out. Just one more reminder too about next week's show is going to be our Christmas special. We will have many guests on throughout the evening to spread some holiday cheer, grab some eggnog, maybe some rum, maybe it's just a tea and coffee or a glass of water, whatever it might be. But please do join us. We'll just be going over more details next week, as well as to our Christmas giveaway for our channel members. And then we will be setting up a December 27th live stream for members only to do the draw. And there'll be a few other things happening there, probably be about maybe half hour, 45 minutes, that show. But by all means, I hope to see all my channel members there. Once again, if anybody has not yet hit that thumbs up button and you enjoyed tonight's show, please do hit it. Helps the YouTube algorithm more easily identify us. And if you haven't already done so, become a subscriber. Hit that subscribe button below. Anyways, my name is Dennis from CANOEHOUND Adventures. And remember, everybody, please keep the adventures alive. We'll see you next time.